welcome everybody to Black Widow Deer Lures podcast. So, something that we have been talking about doing for quite a while. I'm sitting here with Mr. Andy Bogolski, owner of Black Widow Deer Lures, and we've been talking about this for a while, haven't we?
Been talking about it for a year at least, or two.
Yeah. So, just been kind of asking people, what they wanted to hear, different ideas that Andy wanted to share with everybody, and so, what can people expect to hear here on the podcast that we're going to be doing?
Well, today or
No, just here this season.
this
A
season,
lot of different topics.
a lot of different topics. First, we're going to talk about Black Widow Deer Lures when we started 25 years ago
Yeah.
this year. And we're going to talk about, proper lure selection for the time of year,
Right.
how to use the lures, proper stand placement. Hate to say it, but, some things about why I got into it is because I looked at it 25 plus years ago
Yeah.
that I go, I can do it better. I didn't like what I saw out there.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I said, I'm going to try. I'm going to
Yeah.
go. And, a couple people told me, they go, you can't do that. The big company's going to chop you off at the knees.
And they sure did. Well, they'll be. They tried. They sure did try, didn't they?
Oh, they tried.
Oh, yeah.
When we started, it was tough. I mean, once we got our feet underneath us the first year, going into the second year, and got together a little bit of cash, and I was going to advertise, and I won't mention the names, but at the time, 25 years ago, a lot of the advertising wasn't so much TV. The TV was like just barely starting. It was magazines.
No.
And
Magazines were the big deal back then.
big deal.
Yeah.
And I parlayed up money to do a half page in two of the magazines, like a 3-month spread. They wouldn't take my money.
That's crazy.
After they
That is crazy.
after they see the ad, they go, well, we can't do that. And I go, well, what do you mean? And if you listen to the podcast, I won't name companies. I won't badmouth the different companies. Basically, what I was saying and what I saw when I first started, or before I started, I didn't like what I saw out there because I was looking at deer lures. I've been a hunter since I was a little tiny kid, and all I was seeing is deer lure that looked like soy sauce. It was brown as brown could be, and people would smell it and they go, "That's good stuff." It's like, I'm pretty sure there's not any deer that pees that color. It's like they're thinking it's really good, and I thought myself, I'm a little bit of a character. I thought, well, if you think that's good, how about we go to the store and get a big old T-bone steak, throw it on the side of a road for about 3 days in 90-degree heat, pick it up and take a whiff of that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It was old,
rancid,
rotten, and rancid.
Yeah. So, especially when you were a kid and you started collecting urines from deer, so that way you can use it again in a future hunt. I remember you telling me about that. You knew the difference.
Oh yeah.
On color, scents.
Used to get the bladder out and hope that it was full, and cut it out and fill our own bottles. And but we got going, and like I said, they wouldn't take my ads, and the reason they wouldn't take the ads, finally they told me, they go, well, the other companies spend well into the 6 figures for the advertising.
Wow.
And we can't have you saying what you're saying. And basically what I was saying is, what color is your deer lure? Is it old, brown, and broken down? How old is your deer lure?
Right.
Different things like that. Is it dated? You don't even know how old it is because there's no date on it. And they go, we can't do that.
Can't say that. Yeah.
Nope, can't say
You're
that.
going to be exposing the competition.
So me being a bullheaded, I go, okay. So
There's a workaround.
Yeah, there's
There
a way
was a
around.
workaround.
It was at the time when the bow clubs were very, very big. Like New York bow hunters. It was Pennsylvania bow hunters. You had Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. And what I did is I wrote an article talking about that. Talking about fresh deer lure.
Right.
And this way back 25 years ago. So it was underneath the pen name of Sandy Rivers.
Sandy Rivers.
Sandy Rivers. So I put it into these bow clubs, magazines.
Right.
So I was hitting, like, I think Pennsylvania was about 25,000. Michigan was up there too. New York was. So basically I hit probably about 100,000 hardcore deer hunters. But after about 2 or 3 years, I had people asking me, well, how old's your deer lure? What color is it? I'm like, I started
because they didn't know it was you.
They look at you and they go, huh? It's like, and then,
Yep.
believe it or not, one company came and dated one of their products. And it was I was in business for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And then I get calls from the big national magazine. Oh, we can run your ad now. I go, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. No, you had the opportunity. Didn't want me to do it then.
Didn't want me to do it.
I'm not going to do it now.
So basically, what you're going to hear on these podcasts is that I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to say it the way it is.
Right.
I might ruffle some feathers. I may talk about scent control, and people think, all the scent products just totally knock out your scent. No.
Yeah.
What it does, it basically knocks down the scent a little bit, parts per million. Let's face it, 99% of the deer hunters out there right now hunt within half a mile of somebody's home.
Yeah, because the population has just exploded. There's a house everywhere. Very few and far between places to find a block of woods that does not have some sort of human traffic.
Right. They're going to sit there, but they know they can smell parts per million. They can be 800, 900, 1,000 yards away, and the kids could be playing out in the yard. They can smell it, but they know the parts per million in their nose is how far and if it's a danger.
Yeah.
It's kind of here. I'm an analogy type person. It's kind of like, for instance, hunters or whatever. You live out in the country, and in the fall time, you go outside and you smell a little bit of smoke. You go, oh, somebody across the valley's burning some leaves.
Right.
You can smell a little bit of smoke. Whereas the big difference between that's like the deer smelling, people half a mile
Long
away.
way away, right.
Or walking in your garage and going, oh, what's on fire?
Right,
because
absolutely.
you got the corner of your garage is on fire. You can smell the smoke. It's that strong.
Yeah.
But a deer is just so much.
Yeah, so they're basically, what's the amount that they're going to tolerate?
Right.
Absolutely. So lots of topics that we're going to cover over the next course of the beginning of the podcast, actually. So this is the first one. We're kind of going to introduce a little bit. You heard a little bit about how, the challenges that Andy navigated through getting black-wooded deer lures into the place that it is today. But it's been 25 years.
25 years. My first account, I was in a little town in Michigan, one street light town.
Yeah.
Everett, Michigan. And there was a town, in J Sporting Goods over in Clare, Michigan. Yeah. And
Bill Hahn actually got to meet him.
Yep. He was at my 25th anniversary party at the ATA show this past year. And my first account, Jeff Poet, I wasn't talking to Jeff at the time, but they allowed me to come in there on the weekends, and I would be there, and I would talk about deer lure, and I'd do it Saturdays and Sundays, and eventually, Jeff Poet, the owner of Jay's, gave me a few leads to a few people he knew that were in different buying groups at different bigger stores around the country, and it was born, and another way I had a hard time. People kept going, well, why should we carry your deer lure and stuff like that. And I had to find different ways.
Right.
And I had to find different ways, being the low man on the totem pole. So I went around the small mom and pop shops, and I said, I will give it to you for the season on consignment. You don't have to pay me for it until after the season. Basically, here's the lure. I'll stock your shelves. At the end of the season, you have anything left over, I'll take it back and destroy it. And you only pay me for what you sold.
Right.
Because that was my big thing. We dated all our packaging. We dated the lure. Any of the lures I took back, I destroyed it.
Yeah.
Almost got in a couple fights over it. Actually, I was over here not that long ago, probably about 5 years ago. And over here in Tennessee, we don't have garbage pickup. We have convenience centers where they have
Yeah, well, the big compactors.
the big compactors. And I was in there throwing boxes of lure in there, and a couple of guys go, "Give me that! What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm destroying it." "No, give it to me.
Nah.
We could sell it on eBay." I go, "No, that's the reason.
That's exactly why we don't do that.
I almost got in a bit fist fight. I'm like, "Holy man!"
Yeah, that's wild.
You know, we don't want it out there. I mean,
and so the consignment program was really an ingenious idea because the first reward, they weren't really risking anything
Nothing.
at all to stock it. And, you know, if it did well, it did well. If it didn't, you're taking it back.
yep. It was a no-lose situation for them. The only one that could lose was me.
Yep.
You know,
you were
because
taking all the risk.
I was taking all the risk. And, you know, to the point where straight to the dealers, we're probably in about 700 mom and pop, dealers now.
Yeah.
And we just,
Well, we had to take a look at that number because I think we've grown quite
Yeah.
a bit. I know quite a bit in the past couple of years.
you're on that better than I am.
We'll have to update those numbers pretty soon. But so now, when you got your first dealer in Michigan and started getting on the mom and pops,
Mm-hmm.
I remember the story you're talking about the challenges with things such as the growth were like the bottles. Like, what did you start with?
Oh man, I started out with big, heavy, 3-ounce glass bottles, and they were heavy.
Oh Lord!
And you had to pack them so good because they break, and then and then it
I
was.
bet you that would be a stinking mess.
Oh my gosh! I had one I shipped out, and they loaded it in the UPS truck the evening before for delivery the next day, and they parked the trucks outside, and it was like zero.
Lord.
So they were all broken. I went, well, we got to do something here,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
so we went to pharmaceutical grade plastic,
Yeah.
so it doesn't breathe, and it's not the cheap plastic, doesn't cave in, like the cheap stuff, and went, pharmaceutical grade.
Yeah, absolutely. So the glass bottles that would have cost.
A ton
the
of
shipping. Holy smokes! Yeah.
I mean, the one glass bottle probably weighs as much. The bottle itself is a dozen plastic bottles.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah. So that was. So you changed to pharmaceutical bottles. Yeah, and then you said there was another change since then. I mean, as far as what, just the design, I think. This is the second generation or third generation of bottles, I believe.
Yeah, we had the bottles. Then we had a bottle that was kind of an oval, and then
Yes, that's right. You were talking
yeah,
about
it was
the
a little bit of oval, and then I made this one so, it's a bigger bottle, but it has a little bit bigger shoulders on it, so you could put a better label on it and stuff like that. And we sell the
packages in a case well.
Yeah, and the 3-ounce bottles, compared to, most of the companies out there sell 1, maybe 2-ounce bottles.
Right.
Unless they get, like you got a few companies out there that have bottles that are special. It's like outfitter grade or whatever.
Right.
It's like 4 ounces. I go, my normal bottle's 3 ounces. So
Yeah.
it's like, and again, ours is all fresh, dated, and price points when you consider how much there is.
Yeah, because you could look at you can tell when you look at the shelf, 3 ounces in comparison to the whole spread in our category, and you can see the price difference, and we have more
Hmm.
in each bottle.
And it's all fresh, bottled,
Yeah.
and dated. And
Absolutely.
there's very, very, very few companies out there that date their products. I mean, there's really one that I know of that dates one of their products in their product line.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people ask me, they go,
And then I hate to say it, but half the time when I see it on the shelf, it's the year before.
yeah. But like, again, we ain't going to mention names.
Yeah,
but,
no
but the thing
names.
is, people ask me, go, why don't other companies date it? I go, well, it's pretty simple. They don't want to take it back,
Yeah.
and they don't want the date on the bottle
To
sitting
say
out
that it's
there.
old, yeah.
And
'Cause
see,
so we do have, was it 2 companies, I believe, that we supply to that actually asked you not to date the bottles.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we won't mention names again.
Yeah, absolutely not. But it essentially was basically
They
that's not fair.
Well, they told me, they go, well, we don't want the bottles dated because we've got complaints.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I go, complaints? They go, it's an unfair advantage against some of the other companies
yeah.
because you've got a big
Big
blaze orange data on it, season
There's
data on
no
it.
mistaking the
It's
date.
like, really? You know,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
we'll go with it because,
Yeah,
you know, they're pretty big distributors.
right. And so when you know Blackwood Deer Lures and you hear Blackwood Deer Lures, you know that we stand behind the freshness of our product. So regardless of those companies not having the date, everybody knows. Because I do see it every once in a while. They say, "Hey, I picked up a bottle and it didn't have a date," and we're like, "Well, okay, that company,
that
we can't have the date." But you know, if it's on the shelf, it's the current season.
Every once in a while, you get some that say, "Well, I bought something on Amazon or whatever,
Oh yeah,
and
that's
it's got
different.
last year's date on it." And I go,
Yeah,
"We don't sell through Amazon," and I'll tell you what happens there. I go, if you want to sit there and save a penny or a dollar and buy something through a third party,
yeah,
most of the time, it's, you know, that when it's a bad date like that, a year old or
yeah,
something, it's usually the way we do business is we ship it to the dealer, and the dealer sells it, and they send back the old product.
yeah.
And what happens is, let's face it, we got 700 and maybe more
Mm-hmm.
dealers. We're gonna have a handful, 5, 6, 7, that go out of business,
Yeah.
close their doors, go bankrupt, and
Liquidate.
we can't contact them once we
Yeah.
get a paperwork that
Yeah.
they're going bankrupt. They'll take that product and they'll put it out there and make some money, you know, side money.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
nothing we can do about
Yeah,
it.
because there's a couple of liquidation companies. So we do have 2, maybe 2 dealers that are on Amazon that have an Amazon store, and they're very, very good stores.
Oh, real good.
And they're our dealers. They are actually our dealers, fresh product.
Actually,
And then when we look, we
actually,
found 2
actually-
or 3 others.
actually, we should give them a little kudos, maybe.
Yeah, oh, they're great, great companies. When you guys see them, they're actually listed as top sellers. Amazing customer service, and when you find them, you'll know that when you look at the other 2 or 3, you'll see that they are sports liquidation companies or something, and it will have the old date on it. You can see it plain as day. So those companies, when you see it, just know that there's only, I think 2, really. I think we only really have 2 dealers that have Amazon stores. And then if you look at it, if you can tell it's a liquidation company, it's stuff that we could not recall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's basically, you know, and we don't, as far as like eBay or anything like that, same thing on eBay. So if you find anything there, you know, you could be risking purchasing old product, but you know,
If it doesn't say that it's, you know, coming from us, Blackwood, because we do sell a little bit on eBay, but most of our sales are direct off of our site, you know, blackwidodeerlures.com site.
mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's available online.
And we're quick. We
Yes.
get it. We try to get it out. If you place an order, say today, right now, and it's the afternoon right now, so the mail's already gone, it'll be going out the next day.
Yeah,
You know.
Most orders are all heading out within 24 hours.
Yep. You know, I'm a very big stickler on that because it needs to get into people's hands as fast as possible.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of people have always said that our shipping is just amazing as far as getting out to the customer quick so they can have it, especially because a lot of them will call us a week of a hunt.
Well, a lot,
Yeah, I'm going hunting this weekend, and they place an order. Can you get it in time?
and most of ours goes out priority mail, so it's
Yeah.
two to three mail days. And we've had some that are, you know, they're from Alabama and they're going to Kansas and they didn't order. They're going to Ohio and they didn't order it and they want, you know, a bottle. You know, and we've gone to the point where, well, we can't get it to you, but where are you going?
Yeah.
You know, you going to an outfitter. Where are you staying? Okay, we'll ship it there. So it'll be sitting there when you pull in, or at least
Yeah.
the next day after, you know,
Absolutely.
second day of the hunt, it'll be coming in the mail wherever you're staying. Well, we'll do that.
Yeah, make it work. Make it work so you guys could have it. But and the good thing is we have so many dealers in certain areas. A lot of times you can message the social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or you can email. And, you know, sales at blackwidowdeerlures.com or John at blackwidowdeerlures.com. And we can get your zip code and tell you exactly where your local dealer is, and that way you can find it, especially if you're on a trip. I've had a couple guys call and say, hey, I am headed to this state, and I'll look along the route and I'll say, okay, well, here's 2 or 3 stores that have it, and actually as they're traveling they could find and pick it up as they go. So there's several different ways we can definitely make sure that you get the product in your hands for your hunt, and that's kind of really been, you know, a lot of the success of Black Widow Deer Lures is, you know, we're really working hard to make sure that all the customers get the product and get it in their hands for their hunt. I don't think there's another company out there you can call right now and they'll direct you exactly where you're going along your route to
No.
figure out where you can pick
No.
up Black Widow.
You know why? Because we're grassroots. We're still grassroots. We're one of the
Family
biggest.
owned, yeah.
We're one of the biggest companies out there, and we're the largest family owned and operated. And yeah, I'm still down here working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, Janice is still working. I mean, it's the way we would want it. You know, as we got bigger, we did hire people.
Right.
You know, because we just can't do it, and I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
You know,
But there's all the pallets that are out there. They're heading out to distribution. A lot of them's got Andy's hands on them.
well, yeah.
They're loading up all the pallets and moving them around. I definitely see Andy in here killing himself sometimes getting these pallets loaded up, and he's definitely not in an office calling shots, that's for sure.
I don't like the office. I don't like the office. You know, I like to be out either on a piece of equipment or, packing orders or whatever. You know, I'm more of a hands-on. I don't like the office stuff. I don't even like this, but
Oh, yeah. So,
it's Janice don't like it either. So
yeah.
somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah, that's what I told her. I said, we're doing this podcast. And she's like, she doesn't like to be on camera. So even though she was on the Widowmakers TV show, which you guys could see on the Hunt Channel and My Outdoors TV, and she kills her first, monster buck.
Real big buck.
Oh,
yeah.
big buck in Ohio. And we were filming it, and she was excited, but she did not want to be in front of that camera. So we were joking around. I said, well, we're going to start this podcast. And I was like, but it's just your voice. And she's like, but you're videoing it. That means it's going to be somewhere.
It's like being at the archery trade show, you know, at the
Yeah.
biggest show of the year. You know, manufacturers are there, and it's only open to buyers, and you know, there's TV shows there and stuff. And then, you know, a lot of people want to come over. They want to film a little segment. You know, say Whitetail Edge or Interlock out there. You know, TV. They want to come in, and Janice goes, you know, we got a 20 by 20 booth. They're over here. She goes, pew! The other, she's gone.
She is. But, yeah. But this is the true definition of family-owned business. You know, so you develop and come up with ideas of products, and Janice is in there doing all the the orders and calling and dealing with distributors, and
I,
so both of you guys are so hands on with
I'll, t-
everything in this business.
I'll tell you a little bit. It's like I can remember when all my kids were still home
Yes,
before we'd
yes,
have the bottling machines and all that stuff. And you know, I had like a 17-year-old daughter. I had a 15-year-old. I had a 14-year-old. You know, and they all want to go out and stuff. I go, no, you can't go out until you put labels on one box of bottles. And you know, hey, you did what you did,
oh,
and
absolutely,
they were in their rooms, and I
yeah,
could sit there and hear, padoink, 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 them putting the labels on and throw them in the boxes, doop, doop, doop. And this is like in January and February because it takes a long time. So we
yeah,
used to put labels on empty bottles just to have them labeled, you
yeah,
know. It took months and months, you know,
absolutely. Getting ready for the season.
and still, you know, up until about 6, 7 years ago, I mean, we'd get done at the shop here, and me and Janice would be at home. Okay, we'd watch the eat dinner, watch a little TV, we'd be in the living room.
Yeah.
We'd have boxes of something that we would be putting labels on or some type of specialty something, and we'd
Yeah.
be until 11 o'clock, you know.
Yeah,
That's,
and there's certain items like the smoking sticks. You know, those are long tubes, and so as far as labeling those, if you guys didn't know, they're actually done by hand.
by hand.
And you know, when I started with Black Widow several years ago, I would come over and you know we were talking about different advertisement campaigns, different strategies, and while we're talking about this, Andy is literally on the table rolling this tube and putting these labels on, and Janice is working on backer cards and putting labels on. So as we're talking about these different things in the house at night, they're still putting on labels, getting packaging ready throughout the night, and then they take it down to the shop, and then during the day they would actually work on all the packaging and everything here. But at night they always took something with them. So every time I would come over, we would have dinner, and then there would be some sort of work, and I'd grab a box and I'd do a little bit, but they would never let me do the labels though, because Andy makes sure that they're all straight. And so he was like, "Nah, you can do something else. The labeling, I'll take care of the labeling."
Yep. But yeah, that's just the history, you know.
Yeah,
It's just over the years, and like I said, you know,
yeah. So the
we still
kids
do a
were
little bit of
involved.
work
Yeah, yeah. Kids,
at home.
kids doing it, and then yeah, still
And all the
with
kids
that.
are grown now. Now they're oh geez, 32, 29, you know,
Yeah,
28, you
yeah,
know. And you know what? Here's the good thing. I made them work, and me and Janice were the bad parents.
yeah,
We were the bad parents with their friends because their friends were able to go out and do anything they wanted to,
yeah,
and we kept a little thumb on it a little bit, and we paid our kids, and we paid them good. We paid them $10 an hour, but they only got $5 of it. Okay,
yeah,
and $5 went to account. But then when they went off to college, all of a sudden they had several thousand extra dollars
yeah.
to use, you know, and gave them the work ethic. And now
They're all
and
successful. Yeah,
now, you know, we've got, you know, Devin. She's up in Jacksonville. She's an RN. We've got Danny. She's moving from Port St. Lucie out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just got from a district job to a regional job
right.
for a company. You know, and then Michaela, she just moved from Ocala, Florida, to Asheville, North Carolina. She's a physician's assistant, you know, and her specialty is orthopedics, and she used to, you know, 2 days a week, 2, 3 surgeries a day. She'd be in there with the surgeon
Yeah,
working on spines and stuff, and they don't call and ask for any money. They're all successful, and they all thank us for being tough parents
yeah,
and making them give them the work ethic.
yeah. Teaching them those values that they grew up with, and that's that. You know, I think that's a lot of what family-owned businesses end up teaching all the kids and everything like that. It's just a whole different dynamic than kind of what we're seeing today in these big corporate minds and corporate world. So it's been a journey. 25 years.
25 years.
25 years.
Here's a funny story.
Yeah.
Because you make them work. They just give it to them. No, we make them work. I don't know. This is kind of a funny story, but it's kind of a mean story.
Uh-oh.
It's a kind of a mean story. But I got them texting. The girls all wanted texting, so they got texting.
Yeah. On their
And
cell phones. Oh.
oh, this one. Yeah, I think you heard this story.
Yeah.
And my daughter, I won't mention which one, but I'm talking to her about something extremely serious. 3 feet apart. And I hear her phone go, zzz, zzz. She pulls her phone out. She's going, and she's looking at it and texting.
Uh-oh.
And I was mad. And I said something, and she goes, yeah. And kept on. I knocked it out of her hand. Then I took it. I took it out in the garage. I set it on the workbench. I gave her a hammer. I go, smash it. And she's like, smash. I go, the next phone you can buy yourself now.
Oh, Lord.
And
Wow.
then I said, no texting for anybody now. The girls, they all lost it, so they all looked at her like, oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was the mean
Well,
parent.
Yeah, small things though that has molded them to
We're
the
just like-
people
we're
they
ju-
are today. Yeah.
We're just like everybody else out there. It's like we went to the ATA and the kids had a party.
Yeah.
I came back, I looked around, I went, man, they ate a lot of food. Then I looked in the refrigerator out in the garage, I go, man, I only had about 4 or 5 beers in here. Now I got 18-pack. Well, how did that happen? And then I found a few empties, and then around the property I found a few more empties. I'm like, uh-huh. And then I asked Janice, I go, how many bottles of vodka did we have when we came back from a cruise? She goes, 2. I go, well, we got 1.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And then the little brother came home. He was only in about 3rd grade or 4th grade. And you go, okay. Oh, no, nothing. No. And we gave him the evil eye, and then he went in his room, and a couple minutes later he comes out, I can't lie. At a party, they paid me $20 to sit in your room with the dogs.
Oh, Lord.
So,
Oh, Lord.
oh, yeah.
So the workers got caught.
The workers got caught having a party. And the reason they got the internet, well, we're just going to have about 8 or 10 of our friends. All of a sudden, there was about 60, 70 people just started showing up.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I'd have been like, abort, shut it down.
Well, that's what she called her older sister. Her older sister came over with her boyfriend, a couple other guys, and they almost got in a brawl there and trying to shag people
Lord,
out.
trying to get everybody out of there. You guys do not understand. You have to go. It is over.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but
Lots of great stories.
a lot of great stories, a lot of great
stories.
memories, and Black Widow's here to stay. And I could just promise you one thing is that it'll always be fresh
Yeah.
and pure.
Yeah, and that's what was made it. The growth of Black Widow. 25 years. This is definitely not an overnight. We see a lot of scent companies. We see a lot of them. Man, they pop up, and every once in a while I look, and somebody will say a name in one of the hunting groups or something. I'm like, where did this company come from? Go look at it, and it's just somebody just thought they could start a scent company, not really knowing what's all involved. That's for sure. And
They're part-timers.
Yeah, and they're on their weekend is that they're doing something outside of their job, and there's just like a little side hustle, and hey, it's worth a try for them to see if they can make a little extra money, but it's definitely not something that's fully involved, hands in everything.
No.
25 years of experience.
And it was a full-time job right from day one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, I'm going to make it
was
work.
a commitment.
I'm going.
A commitment. It's not a side hustle. This has definitely been a commitment from day one. So, and a lot of times, when you see new companies pop up, I kind of look at them. I'm like, well, we'll see how long it lasts, because I definitely don't think they understand the work that's involved.
No.
in building a company,
And then
challenges to navigate through. And then if you're not even focused 100%.
no, then they got money tied up in product,
Mm-hmm.
and then it doesn't sell. And these are the guys that are at the flea markets, or they go to the local sports show in February or March, and they're selling lure
Yeah.
over there. It's like I'm thinking to myself, that should be thrown out.
Yeah,
You know,
that stuff's old.
but they're
Not gonna
selling it.
last, yeah.
They're selling
It's
it,
not
and they're
gonna
saying,
last
"Oh,
in
we're
the
giving
season.
you a deal." Well, it's not much of a deal. It's like saying, "Well, we got hamburger here, and it's outdated by about 2 months, but here we go.
And we'll give you a discount, a heck of a deal.
It's black, but
Yeah.
here we go."
So, and that can bring up another topic as well as another question, actually. So, we had a lot of customers that when you're talking about, having product in March. We don't have any product available during that time because there's nothing that we have poured. So, when they ask us, hey, if I buy it this year and I hold on to it to next year, how potent is it?
A guesstimate. I've done studies on it. From 1 year to the next year, let's face it. It's not the urine that attracts the deer. It's the pheromones, hormones, glandular secretions. Be it buck, be it doe, that are in the urine. The urine is actually just a carrier. It's kind of like a gallon of bleach. A gallon of bleach, the chlorine amount in there is very little. Percent and a half of actual chlorine that's in there. The rest of it's water that they use as a carrier. It's the same thing with the urine. And so you got the glandular secretions that are in there, and they dissipate, from year to year. After, from one fall to the next fall, going from 1 year is 100% to the next year, it may be 40%.
Right.
You're losing that much. It's kind of like medicine. If you go to the store and you get liquid medicine, they have a date where it needs to be discarded or whatever. It's not because it's getting stronger; it's because it's getting weak.
Right.
And same thing with the urine. So, is it totally bad? No. Is it 50%? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know.
Less than that. So, and we do get that question time to time. And the thing is, it's because we pour fresh, so that if you held it to the following year, it's still going to be under 50%. So, if you could just imagine other products that have been on the shelf for 2 years
Or 3 years.
or 3 years, they've just been slowly degrading over the course of the couple years, and that's especially if they're actually stored in the perfect conditions. So I mean. You're talking. What are the things that really shut down urines? You're the couple. What are the, I guess, the conditions where it could ruin it faster?
Are they sitting in heat?
Right.
Are they sitting, even if it's fresh? Is the dealer putting it on an end cap or whatever in front of a plate glass window?
Right.
And so a few hours of the day, the sun's blasting on it.
Yeah.
Heating it up. It's not a good thing. Another bad thing to do is freezing.
Yeah.
You don't freeze deer urine. Deer urine is made out of different cells and et cetera. And those cells are, the glandular secretions and the hormones and stuff. So basically, when people think, well, I'm going to freeze it, I'm going to put it in my freezer. Well, there's a few companies out there trying to promote that, but let's face the fact, what happens to a bottle of water when you put it in the freezer? We all know that. It expands to the point where it's almost bursting. You know why? It's because the cells are expanding so much.
Right.
And so when you get a cell like a hormone or a glandular secretion cell, it's kind of like millions of little balloons. As they expand, they explode.
Yeah, they pop.
And it's kind of like getting a steak. You can get a steak at the grocery store and set it on a plate, and there's not a whole bunch of liquid, coming out of it. But if you take that steak and you freeze it, and then defrost it and thaw it out and put it on that plate, you're going to have all kinds of liquid in that plate. Mm-hmm. And what that is, that's all the cell membranes that's inside the different cells. As
Yeah.
they're exploding, they're dehydrating and
Releasing, yeah.
releasing.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get freezer burn, and it's getting dried.
Right. So do not freeze. Extreme heat
You
is definitely going
don't
to
put it
shut
on
it
your
down.
don't put it on your dashboard.
Yeah. Yeah. And sunlight
Sunlight.
is probably three of the
Mhm.
quick killers of deer lords.
Number one is heat. Number two is freezing,
Mhm.
and I would think three is sunlight,
Sunlight.
direct sunlight, and leaving
Right.
it there.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you buy your deer lures, even though they are freshly poured current season, you definitely need to be able to store it properly, keep it in a cool place. Room temperature is fine. That's what everybody always asks me. And I'm like, well, room temperature works. It's completely fine. It's just, you don't have to hide it, and or put it in a refrigerator. Some people do. It does help.
It does help a
slow
little.
down, break down. But do you have to? No, just keep it out of the sunlight, and room temperature is just fine.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that way you guys can enjoy the full potential. I mean, potency of your deer lures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's coming from fresh. So that's why it's a big deal to make sure you have fresh. Because if let's say you start with a lure that's already a year old. I mean, you're
At 40% about.
yeah,
And that's if it's a year old.
yeah,
Sometimes
if it's a year old, yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes they may sit in a warehouse at the manufacturer,
Yeah.
and then it could go and sit. It could be something that was at a dealer, and they took it off, put it in a box, and threw it in the back room,
Yeah.
and
And
then
that's-
brought it out.
Yeah, and that's that. And another interesting kind of observation of that is so I just walked through Bass Pro Shops just a couple weeks ago, and there's still urines on the shelf. However, there's no black-wooded deer lures on the shelf.
No. And
It's not.
And then there's other things. It's like, the people bring it out of the back room and put it on the shelf, and it's like chocolate brown.
Oh yeah, yeah. So see, we recall all of our product at the end of the season. So from about February, right at the end of the season, about the end of January, February, depending on when your deer season ends, we recall all of it. And so right now at Bass Pro Shops, you're not going to see black-wooded deer lures on the shelf. You'll see some others, but ours won't reappear on the shelves until August.
Mm-hmm.
You'll start seeing it again in August because that is
And
fresh lures that were poured.
and a lot of people say, well, how can you get fresh? How can you get this? Well, let's face it. It's just like cattle or horses and stuff. You bring the deer into estrus.
Yep.
You bring them in an estrus, artificially, mostly by hormones, and that's how you get the first couple batches.
Yep.
And after that, it's all natural.
Yep. Stay saying that. And another thing that we discussed too is that it's just not in June and July when we pour. That's actually just when we start. We're actually pouring throughout the season. So that's how we make sure that everything is the freshest possible, because we are still pouring in September, October, November, and as we're replenishing reorders, they're constantly being poured fresh throughout the current season. There's not just a block where we say, okay, June is when we're pouring, and that should last us the whole season. It's currently bottling throughout that season that we're dating it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, that's a little history about black-wooded deer lures. We've coming on
our first one. We've been yammering here for a while, huh?
Sure have. So again, guys, we appreciate you listening, and again, we've got a lot of topics coming up on the Black-Wooded Deer Lures podcast. I'm here with Andy. We're going to have some guest speakers coming up. Right now, we've got several topics before we even really get into our guest speakers, and but you can look forward to hearing from a lot of the guys that we work with. A lot of different companies, a lot of different hunting shows, and just friends in the industry, that are going to join us on some future episodes. And so we're going to wrap this one up. And
It's a smaller industry than you think.
yeah.
You know, it's a big industry, but it's a small industry. You know, I've been in it for 25 years. If I don't know the person of the the owner of the company, I know somebody that does.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have owners come and visit me, stay with me for
Yeah.
vacation, and I go hunting with them.
Yeah.
And they come hunt with me. It's hunting different spots, so it's like a community out there.
It sure is. Absolutely. And so you'll hear from a lot of different people, a lot of different guest speakers. And if there's ever any topics or anything, you guys can always message us or email us. Again, you can email sales@blackwidowdeerlures.com or John, John, at blackwidowdeerlures.com. And you guys can order products on blackwidowdeerlures.com on our shop, as well as find a local dealer. Just shoot us your zip code, and we will direct you to the closest dealer that carries our products. And we'll look forward to talking with you guys on the next episode of the Black Widow Deer Lures podcast.
Thank you for listening.